For 20 years as the madam of the Marquis household, I treated my mother-in-law as my own mother and attended to my husband's every need. I poured my heart and soul into my children. Yet all I got was, "To marry a wife like you is a disgrace to the family." I was abandoned in a separate courtyard, dying alone. Given another chance, I decided to live differently. Mother-in-law wants to become a nun and worship Buddha? Let her. Husband wants to bring a mistress into the house? Let him. Son spends his days in debauchery? Let him. Whatever they want to do, what does it have to do with me? But one by one, they all come begging me to manage them. Ding! This novel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. I never thought I would die like this. The wind, mixed with snow, cuts into the room like a knife. The maid kneels on the ground crying. "Madam," they say there's no coal left. How could that be? In the Grand Marquis mansion, in the bitter winter, no coal stored? It must be under someone's orders. Food withheld, expenses withheld, and now even the warming coal is denied. As for whose orders? It's either the mother-in-law who vowed to treat me as her own daughter when I married, or the husband who promised lifelong devotion and fidelity when he asked for my hand. Or perhaps, the son I carried for 10 months, who calls another woman mother. Another gust of wind blows in, and I clutch my chest, coughing. But I cough up a mouthful of blood. "Madam! Madam, I'll fetch a doctor." No need. During the new year, which doctor would brave the wind and snow? To see a discarded wife of the Marquis household? I asked Yunyao to move the reclining chair outside to the courtyard. Soon, fireworks lit up the night sky. Just across the street, the Marquis household welcomed a new bride, added a new member, making this New Year's Eve bustling and lively. Only I, after 20 years of serving the Marquis household with all my heart, ended up unloved by my mother-in-law, disliked by my husband, and despised by my son. Truly ironic. Madam? Madam? The sound of fireworks drowned out Yunyao's cries. I died on such a night of family joy. My husband embracing the new bride, my son setting off fireworks, my mother-in-law sipping new tea. Not one remembered the discarded wife who gave everything for them. Fortunately, heaven remembered me. I was reborn. At this moment, I was about to throw a cup of tea at Xinwenhan. "Tanglingxi, don't go too far. I'm just marrying a secondary wife, and you get this angry?" I was stunned, the teacup tightly held in my hand. This was 6 years ago. Xinwenhan had kept a mistress outside for 10 years, hiding it perfectly. When I got the news, I fell seriously ill. Not yet recovered, Xinwenhan brazenly brought her to the house. Said he wanted to marry her as a secondary wife. Pan and I were childhood sweethearts, we had a marriage agreement long ago. If I hadn't married you first, I would have made her my principal wife. Now calling her a secondary wife, she still has to respect you as sister. What more are you dissatisfied with? Married to him for over a decade, I never knew he had a childhood sweetheart with a marriage agreement. In my past life, I threw the teacup without hesitation. I had a huge fight with Xinwenhan, got so angry I coughed up blood. And thus, left with a chronic illness. But now, holding the teacup, my raised hand trembled slightly. Not a trace of anger. I was reborn. Reborn at the beginning of it all. Whether you agree or not, I will definitely. Then go ahead and marry her. I calmly put down the teacup. Xinwenhan was stunned. My husband doesn't mind Miss Su being twice married, doesn't care about societal views. Fulfilling a marriage agreement from over 10 years ago. You are truly sentimental and righteous. I took a sip of tea, looking at him with a smile. Then pick a good day, and bring Miss Su into the house. In Xinwenhan's bewildered expression, I stood up. Why should I disagree? In my past life, the emotional hurt was one aspect. But more importantly, I cared about the Marquis household's reputation. Su Pan was indeed childhood sweethearts with Xinwenhan, and indeed had a marriage agreement with Xinwenhan. But back then, she despised the declining Marquis household, broke off the engagement and married the son of the Minister of Revenue. In less than 3 years, she was divorced for not serving her in-laws. Her family, ashamed of her, refused to take her back. Shin Won-han didn't mind her. Turned around and took her in. But if this matter were made public, the Marquis household marrying a discarded wife as a secondary wife. Still his colleagues' discarded wife. How would the capital discuss the Marquis household? How would Shin Won-han face the now magistrate of the capital, Su Ponpon's ex-husband, in court? My many considerations, in Shin Won-han's view, boiled down to one word. Jealousy. In this life, let him be. The reputation of the Marquis household, Shin Won-han's career, what does it have to do with me? Pack some valuables and send them to Miss Su. I instructed the maid. Tell the Marquis, once the wedding date is chosen, just inform the inner courtyard. Not only did I agree to Shin Won-han's marriage, but I wanted him to marry grandly and gloriously. The Marquis is getting married again. In less than half a day, the news spread throughout the Marquis' residence. It's different from the previous life. In the previous life, I disagreed. And the servants only knew that Shin Won-han and I had a big argument. Other than that, they wouldn't dare to gossip. But this time, my personal maid respectfully sent clothes and jewelry for the future secondary wife. Before leaving, she even said loudly enough for everyone to hear. The madam asks Miss Su to stay well at the Marquis' residence. When the Marquis sets the wedding date, he will surely marry Miss Su with a grand ceremony. Yun Meng came back and said that Su Pan was completely stunned at the time. Madam, are you really allowing Miss Su to enter as a secondary wife? Yun Meng is Yun Yao's sister. In the previous life, she passed away even earlier than me. Before her death, she remembered to bring her younger sister to the courtyard to take care of me. I stuffed a piece of osmanthus cake into her hand. 3 years in the separate courtyard, this is a rare treat. Before I could say a word, there was a commotion outside. Young master, slow down, watch out for the orchids. Oh, my dear son has arrived. Mother, are you really that useless? Shin Junimo kicked open my door. Just let that woman enter the house like this? The dignified madam of the Bravery Marquis' residence, is this how you manage the household? I was holding a piece of osmanthus cake. No need to put it down. I leisurely took a bite and quietly looked at him. Shin Junimo is 14 this year. I married into the Marquis' residence at 18 and gave birth to him that year. It was a difficult birth, lasting 3 days and nights, almost dying on the birthing bed. But over the years, my relationship with him has not been close. Firstly, after giving birth to him, my mother-in-law said I needed to recuperate, so she took him away. He was gone for 6 or 7 years. When I finally got him back, all he had in his eyes was my mother-in-law. Secondly, I later learned. My mother-in-law appeared harmonious on the surface. But behind the scenes, she did everything to sow discord. Required him to study hard, it was for my reputation. Forbade him from associating with those playboys. Because I hated that he tormented me on the birthing bed for 3 days and couldn't bear to see him happy. Forbade him from visiting places of entertainment. Because I was afraid that he would understand matters between men and women and get married early. Which would take away my authority in managing the household. These were all instilled in him by my mother-in-law. Shin Junimo had already grown crooked. I used to feel guilty. Blaming myself for being weak and ignorant back then. Unable to keep him by my side and personally raise him. I used to trying my best to make amends. 3 years in the separate courtyard finally made me understand. Not all mothers and sons have a close bond. Am I wrong? Shin Junimo stiffened his neck. Usually, when he got so angry, I would rush over, pouring tea and soothing him, letting him speak slowly. But today, I just looked away. Poured myself a cup of tea. Mother! Shin Junmo's tone surprisingly softened. That woman can be a concubine, but how can she be a wife? Marrying a divorced woman as a wife, wouldn't I be laughed at in the National Academy? Moreover, others would laugh at you too, saying you don't manage the household strictly. Is that so? In the previous life, he sided with my mother-in-law, saying I couldn't tolerate even a weak woman. Calling me a jealous wife. I don't care. Anyway, you can't let that woman enter the house. If you do, I will never acknowledge you as my mother again. I smiled. Junimo, I looked at him, the one getting married is your father. Not me. Shinjunimo stormed out in a fit of rage. Before leaving, he shouted, "It's because you couldn't keep father's heart." Yunmeng hurried over to comfort me. "Young master is still young, madam, don't be upset." I shook my head. "He's not young. He's accustomed to it. For so many years, every mistake has been mine. Mother-in-law fell ill, it was my lack of care. Husband is busy with official duties, it's my failure to share his burdens. Even when a cat or dog goes missing in the household, it's my poor management. Madam, this matter is significant. Should we inform the old madam?" I stuffed another piece of osmanthus cake into Yunmeng's hand. Inform what? Wasn't Shinjunemo instigated by her? In the Marquis's household, except for the muddle-headed Shin Han, who doesn't know that marrying Su Pan Pan would be ridiculed? In my past life, I was the one who took the blame. Mother-in-law could stand by Shin Han's side and accuse me of being jealous. But this time, I agreed willingly. She cares most about her reputation and can't stand idly by. Yet she doesn't want to fall out with her own son. So she let Shinjunemo come to make trouble for me. Let him. Even if the sky falls, I won't waste another word on this matter. In the evening, someone came to my courtyard. Upon seeing me, they anxiously reported, "Madam! The old madam has packed her things and says she's going to become a nun and pray." Very well. It's the same trick again. All those years, it was always like this. Mother-in-law always wore a smile, always said the nicest things. But whenever something didn't go her way, she'd wipe her tears. I'm old, useless, this chaos in the Marquis's household, I won't bother watching. I'll just seek peace and become a nun. I was raised with strict teachings. At home, obey your father, after marriage, obey your husband. Respect parents, teach children. This is how a woman should be. How could I force my mother-in-law to become a nun? That would be unfilial and disrespectful. Every time mother-in-law acted like this, I'd rush over to apologize and admit my faults. But now, Yunmeng, I called out, the old madam wants to become a nun. Quickly, prepare more clothes, silver, and send them all to the old madam. Also, instruct the steward to prepare the carriage swiftly. While it's still daylight, later the nunnery will be closed. The Bravery Marquis's household was in chaos. First, the Marquis wants to marry a secondary wife, then the old madam wants to become a nun. And the usually composed and stabilizing madam remained silent on the matter. When the servants asked, she only replied, "Follow the Marquis's orders. Follow the old madam's orders." Yunmeng touched my forehead several times, worried that I might have damaged my brain from illness a few days ago. I asked her to fetch wine. Brewing wine and enjoying the snow, there's nothing more pleasant. After all, this drama still has some time to play out. How could mother-in-law truly become a nun? In my past life, it wasn't until I was drained of my last drop of blood that I realized. The accounts mother-in-law handed me were only a small part of the Marquis's estate. She held on to the wealth, her son, her grandson, never intending to relinquish control. The so-called handing over of household management to me was just under the guise of Marquis's decline, waiting for me to use my dowry to cover the household expenses. Shin Han, how could he easily concede? In these years, he has risen smoothly, full of ambition. That Miss Su has extraordinary means. In Shin Han's words from my past life, she is the moon in the sky, the snow amidst the clouds. How could a mundane woman like you compare? You want me to make her a concubine? You're dreaming. Sure enough, on the way out of the capital, mother-in-law was forced back to the household by Shinjunmo's tearful pleas. 3 days later, Shin Han handed over the chosen date on a red paper slip. Very urgent, the 18th of next month. Another 3 days passed, and mother-in-law finally couldn't hold back. Leading the uncles, aunts, sisters-in-law, and nieces-in-law, they filled my courtyard in a grand procession. Today is the 15th. On the 15th of every month, I used to gather everyone from each branch to dine together and admire the moon. Inside and outside the Marquis's residence, no one failed to praise me as virtuous. But they also taught me a lesson. As a person, one should not live according to others' expectations. So this time, everyone stared at the cup of tea in front of them, looking at each other in confusion. Tanglingsi, Is this the only lowly trick you know how to use? Oh, Shinwon Han is here too. He thinks I deliberately angered my mother-in-law into wanting to become a nun, and intentionally called everyone here just to serve tea as a silent protest. Grandmother, it's just a meal. Does our Marquis residence lack it? I'll have Nanny Lee bring it right away, Shin Junimo said, giving me a fierce glare. I tugged at the corner of my lips. I only lowered my eyes to drink tea. Lingxi, if you've been wronged or are dissatisfied, feel free to speak up. My mother-in-law sat in the main seat, speaking kindly. I understood now. I thought she gathered all these people to persuade Shinwon Han. After all, in my past life, after several big arguments with him, he became somewhat clearer. He sent Su Pan out of the residence, and only after he reached the pinnacle of his career. When no one dared to gossip about him, did he truly marry her. I didn't expect my mother-in-law to gather these people just to attack me. Yes, mother is most understanding and will surely uphold justice for sister-in-law. It's the second branch's sister-in-law. TSK, they say Tang family women are virtuous and outstanding, but I see it's just SOSO. The third branch's uncle. Perhaps Tang Lingxi has forgot her father's dying words after all these years. My father told you to take care of me before he died, but I haven't seen anyone remember. Aunt, you are the madam of this Marquis residence, you can't ignore things. Really? When I was sent to the separate courtyard, no one said a word that I was the madam of this Marquis residence. Everyone present played their roles, some praising, some criticizing, each saying their piece. They seemed eager to drown me with their words. I remained silent. I only thought of telling Yunmeng next time not to serve tea to anyone who comes. Lingxi. My mother-in-law suddenly slammed the table. What do you mean by this? Oh, she's angry now? I continued drinking tea. You show no respect for your elders. Is this the attitude a madam should have? I didn't even bother to lift my eyelids. Tang Lingxi, you must be thinking. Thinking what? Divorce? You guessed right. The teacup made a ding sound on the table. I raised my head and stood up. Mother is absolutely right. I show no respect for elders, my attitude is dismissive. I am unfilial to mother-in-law, do not teach my children, and am incapable of managing the Marquis residence. I ask for a letter of divorce, so I can return my home. I curtsied and bowed, not waiting for everyone to react. I called for Yunmeng. I had already prepared for this over the past few days. Everyone only knows that the Marquis residence has been getting better over the years. But they don't know how much effort I put into it. The next few years are the most crucial for Shinwon Han's career. Describing it as spending money like water wouldn't be an exaggeration. In my past life, I nearly used up all my dowry to barely make ends meet. This time, whoever wants to manage the household finances can do it. In front of everyone, I handed all the account books to my mother-in-law, called the steward and returned all the keys to the storerooms. The land deeds, property deeds, and shops in my hands over the years were also counted. Finally, I bowed once more. Lingxi is neither capable nor fortunate enough to manage the Marquis residence. Just in time for the Marquis to marry a new wife, mother will surely find a suitable person. Let the Marquis and I part amicably, and find happiness anew. The large courtyard fell silent. After a while, bang! Shinwon Han smashed the teacup in his hand. Those who originally planned to judge me left awkwardly. Shinwon Han stayed behind, venting his anger. He probably wanted to argue with me. But I didn't want to argue with him. Giving attention to someone unworthy is a waste of one's life. Don't think that by using divorce as a threat, I'll yield. I must marry Su Pan. I shrugged. Go ahead. We've been married for over a decade, and you want a divorce? Dream on. I pouted, then don't divorce. You. Shinwon Han was so angry his hands were shaking, and finally, he flung his sleeve. When leaving, he nearly kicked the door down. Madam. Yunmeng worriedly approached. I leisurely poured a cup of tea. Divorce, is it really that easy? My parents passed away early, and I have no support in the capital. The divorce letter requires signatures from both Shinwon Han and my mother-in-law. But Shinwon Han has just been appointed as the Vice Minister of Works. If he merely marries Su Pan Pan, he can still use childhood friendship to maintain appearances. But if he divorces me to marry Su Pan Pan, he'll definitely be criticized by other officials. And my mother-in-law? She's been eyeing my dowry since I entered the residence. My father was merely a tutor to the crown prince with no background. But my mother was famously the daughter of the richest man in Southern. When I got married, the red dowry stretched for miles, causing a sensation in the capital. If I divorce, won't I take away those dowries already in the Marquis's residence? This public confrontation was meant to decisively relinquish control of the household. But unexpectedly, there was an unexpected surprise. My mother-in-law actually agreed to let Su Pan Pan into the house. It was heard that the day she returned, she was furious in her room. Who does she think she is? Does she think our bravery Marquis household can't do without her? The next day, she relented to Shin Han. I understand my mother-in-law. She is probably like Shin Han. She thinks that my public mention of divorce is a form of blackmail. So she decided to do the opposite, hoping to force me to admit my mistake. Unfortunately, her plan fell through. Nanny Lee came every few days to report the progress of the wedding, but I ignored her. Shin Mo came to make a fuss every now and then, but I didn't care. On the wedding day, my mother-in-law's face was extremely unpleasant. Especially when some servant made a mistake and sent the invitation to Su Pan Pan's ex-husband. That ex-husband was quite a character, he actually came to the wedding. The situation was extremely awkward for a while. The day after the wedding, my mother-in-law, in a fit of pique, handed over the account books, land deeds, and everything else to Su Pan Pan right in front of me. Great! No longer do I have to use my dowry to subsidize this family of ingrates. Su Pan Pan, just like in the past life, is charming and sweet-talking. In a few days, she had my mother-in-law smiling from ear to ear. Shin Mo also liked her very much. After all, she wouldn't nag him to study, nor would she care if he came home late. Soon, my courtyard was almost forgotten. Shin Han was busy with his new wife in their honeymoon phase. Shin Mo was busy eating, drinking, and having fun all over the capital. My mother-in-law was busy being like mother and daughter with the new daughter-in-law. And me? When night fell, I changed my clothes. I walked out of the Marquis's residence through the hidden small door. My mother-in-law has always looked down on me. In her eyes, even though the Marquis's family has not had anyone in court for 3 generations, it is still an aristocratic family. My father, although the crown prince's tutor, was just a scholar and actually married a merchant's daughter. For me, with merchant blood, to enter her Marquis's residence, I should be grateful. But it was precisely my merchant blood that allowed me to expand the Marquis's meager business. That small door was originally left for fear of being despised for having the smell of money on me. Yet having some matters that I had to personally handle. Unexpectedly, it became a door to my freedom. You are... The Grand Princess in the seat looked surprised, the wife of the bravery Marquis? I shook my head. Your Highness, I am the daughter of the former Crown Prince's tutor Tanglingsi. I am not only good at business. My father was a highly respected Crown Prince's tutor. Since childhood, I followed my father and read extensively, composing poems at 3 and essays at 7. At the age of 10, an essay titled Ode to the Southern was widely circulated in the capital. But my father said that after all, I was a girl, and it was not suitable to be too conspicuous. He hid my name, saying it was written by a student of his in Southern. I was once indignant. I once vowed, I will not lose to any man in this life. But after getting married, I had to put away my books and tie up my hair. Manage the household, serve my in-laws. Teach children, attend to my husband. 20 years in the Marquis's residence, looking back, I can hardly remember my old self. In this life, I will find myself again. The Grand Princess has always been committed to promoting women's education, eager to find talent. While the Marquis's residence was busy marrying a new wife, I anonymously wrote her 3 letters. As expected, she wanted to see me. After seeing me, she did not have any reservations about my identity, but was very pleasantly surprised. The wife of the Marquis is renowned, a model of aristocratic women, yet unexpectedly, has such talent. And such courage! I met her needs, using the pseudonym Master She, and roamed the major tea houses in the capital. Within a month, the news of a famous female scholar in the capital, knowledgeable and insightful, discussing ancient and modern times, spread far and wide. Every day, I entered and exited through the small door, changing clothes, covering my face, and altering my voice outside. I was never discovered. 3 months later, the madam in the Marquis's residence was still ignored. On the capital street, Master Shu was in high demand. Another 3 months passed, and the Grand Princess spoke to me. Lingxi, the road ahead may be inconvenient for you due to your identity. Do you need me to help you divorce? I bowed. Such a small matter at home, I dare not trouble your highness. Your highness, please wait for me for another month. The truth is, less than half a month later, my opportunity came. Having been married into the Marquis residence for over half a year, Su Pan was finally pregnant again. Yes, again. She had been with Xinwen Han for 10 years and had been pregnant 3 times during that period. But each time, she sent the child away with a bowl of miscarriage medicine. In Xinwen Han's words, she was resolute and cold-hearted. She would rather die than accept her child being an illegitimate offspring. After all, she is a proper daughter of a noble family, unlike you. Unlike me, whose mother was a merchant. It was then I realized that my husband, like my mother-in-law, had always looked down on me. After giving birth to Shinjunimo, I had no more children. The direct lineage of the Marquis residence was sparse. With Su Ponpon's pregnancy, the whole family was overjoyed. Until one day, Su Pan had tea at my place. After returning, she experienced abdominal pain and quickly bleed. My courtyard was once again filled with people. Tang Lingxi, I never thought you could be so cruel. My mother-in-law, leading the group, placed the teacup with medicine residue on the table. Our Marquis residence has considered your 14 years of diligent and dutiful service, giving you many chances. For the past 6 months, you haven't visited my courtyard, haven't served your husband, haven't managed the household, and haven't cared for Junimo. All of this could be overlooked. But today, you even dared to harm an unborn child. I did not offer the main seat to my mother-in-law, but looked around at everyone. So, what do you plan to do? My mother-in-law waved her hand. Wen Han, write the letter of expulsion. As expected. I smiled. Someone immediately handed paper and pen to Xinwen Han. Xinwen Han looked at me deeply. Lingxi, you have gone too far, don't blame me. He was about to write. Xinwen Han, isn't this a bit too hasty? I stood up. Yun Meng immediately knelt down. Madam Marquis, this morning before Lady Su came over, the young master visited once. Not only Lady Su's teacup, but all the teapots in Madam's courtyard were drugged. Please, Madam Marquis, verify. Yun Meng brought out several teapots. Then more servants knelt down. This was just found in the young master's room. Please, Madam Marquis, verify. As soon as the words fell, a servant brought in a doctor, saluting. This person claims the medicine was purchased from him by the young master. Please, Madam Marquis, inquire. Shinjunimo immediately knelt on the ground, trembling. I turned and walked out. Afterwards, the Grand Princess asked me how I could predict so accurately. Knowing Su Pan would use Shinjunimo to frame me was one thing. But even knowing what kind of medicine he used and where he bought it? No mystery. I had experienced it once before. In my past life, it was like this. Su Pan hadn't been in the door long before she won everyone's hearts. Using her pregnancy to attack me. How could I have imagined then, that my son, whom I carried for 10 months and watched grow up, would conspire with outsiders to harm me? My mother-in-law said in front of everyone, marrying a wife like you disgraces the family. Xinwen Han wrote a divorce letter, marrying a wife like you disgraces the family. Shinjunimo personally locked me in a separate courtyard, marrying a wife like you disgraces the family. Each one of them pushed me into the mud. I never rose again. I went straight to the courthouse. By the time everyone reacted and caught up with me, I had already struck the drum in front of the courthouse. Tang Lingxi, are you crazy? Xinwen Han grabbed my hand. What are you trying to do? Report to the authorities. I gritted my teeth, framing his birth mother, unfilial, unkind, unrighteous, according to the law. He is your son. When has he ever treated me as his mother? I was about to strike the drum again. Tang Ling Si. Shin Wenhan gritted his teeth. What exactly do you want? The commotion in front of the courthouse had already attracted the attention of passers-by. Those following Shin Wenhan had already caught up. The 2 drum strikes brought 2 bailiffs out to investigate. I gripped the drumstick, straightened my back, and said loudly, Marquis, since you have a new love, why not part ways? I want a divorce. For a moment, no one cared about the child in Su Ponpon's womb. After all, compared to something not yet formed, the person in front was more important. My mother-in-law protected Shinjunemo as if he were her own eyes. Upon hearing I wanted to report him, she was so angry she nearly fainted. But she didn't dare to gamble. When Su Pan married into the house, she gambled once. She lost. If she lost again this time, it wouldn't just be the reputation of the Marquis residence, but the future of the entire Marquis residence. I calculated a clear account with her, and took back all the dowry I had supplemented into the Marquis residence over the years. Shin Wenhan was very disdainful when he heard me talk about money. He threw down the divorce letter and left. It was Su Pan who personally came to see me off on the day I left the residence. Perhaps because I had been living neglected in the courtyard for the past 6 months. She felt I wasn't much of a threat to her. She wasn't as ruthless as she was in my past life. The child was saved. When she saw me off, she was smiling with her still invisible belly. Sister, you are leaving like this, I really can't bear it. You are just a woman, Junimo is not by your side. If you encounter any difficulties in the future, be sure to remember to return to the Marquis residence. She probably thought that with me gone, good days awaited her. I also smiled at her. Sis, you must also be loving and inseparable with the Marquis. But don't, when disaster strikes, fly away separately. I began to openly work for the Grand Princess. Master Shi already had a solid foundation in the capital, and I started to engage in academic debates. As more and more scholars and talents joined, the name Master Shi became widely known. The Grand Princess seized the opportunity and petitioned the emperor. If Master Shi can achieve success in learning, why can't other women in the world? Your Majesty, I petition for the women of the world. Asking father to establish schools for women and allow them to enroll and study. Whenever the conservative faction in the court opposed, she retorted, women can't accomplish things? Why don't you debate with Master Shi, and speak only if you win? With the Grand Princess's vigorous promotion, within less than a year, the first women's school in the capital was established. During this year, I was immersed in various lectures and debates, buried in a sea of books, with no time to pay attention to the outside world. But that didn't stop some things from quietly happening. First, Su Ponpon's child was born. It was a little boy. The Marquis's residence was overjoyed and held a grand banquet. Next, Shinjunemo was supposed to discuss marriage. But in the past 2 years, he had been mingling with a group of playboys, frequenting brothels, and had a bad reputation. The nanny who raised him since childhood came to me twice, hoping I would manage him. At least until his marriage was settled, so he wouldn't cause trouble. I didn't pay attention. As winter approached, another event happened in the Marquis's residence that was the talk of the capital. Shinjunemo, along with several nephews from different branches of the family, caused a commotion in the ancestral hall. The cause was Su Pan having the silver allowances for each branch, reducing the staff and food expenses. Shinjunemo believed Su Pan was deliberately withholding funds for personal gain. Su Pan, on the other hand, claimed the mother-in-law was hiding wealth. The assets she held were not enough for the family's extravagant lifestyle. When Yunmeng told me about it, I wasn't surprised at all. It's been a year and a half. The shops I painstakingly managed must have been ruined by Su Pan. Su Pan drove me away and had a son, so naturally, she didn't need to curry favor with everyone anymore, especially Shinjunemo. She was probably racking her brains to get Shinjunmo's heir position for her own son. Shinjunemo was almost 16 and not foolish. Naturally, he opposed her. I had no time to watch the family's drama. After spring, I would enter the school and become the first female teacher at the first women's school. But after winter, the Grand Princess specifically summoned me to discuss some matters of the Marquis's residence. The imperial astronomer predicted heavy snow in the south this year, advising the court to prepare early. Today in court, Shin Won-han volunteered to take full responsibility for this matter. Lingxi, what do you think? The Grand Princess had always valued me. Her question made me understand her intentions. Fortune and misfortune are intertwined. If there truly is heavy snow in the south, it's a challenge, but also an opportunity. If Shin Won-han can seize this opportunity, he will rise to another level. But as a fellow woman, the Grand Princess understands me. My efforts, my grievances, my disregard. The Grand Princess was hinting that if I didn't want it, she could deny Shin Won-han this opportunity. In the previous life, indeed. During the southern snow disaster, Shin Won-han thought of what others couldn't. Before the court's funds arrived, he used private silver from the residents to promptly send a large amount of cold-resistant supplies, significantly reducing the number of casualties. Because of this great merit, he was exceptionally promoted to Minister of Works by the Emperor the following year, becoming the youngest minister since the founding of the dynasty. In the previous life, to gather those funds, I almost sold all my dowry. After this event, all my private assets became the Marquis' residence's assets, leaving me with no support. In this life, without me, without my dowry, I'm not sure what Shin Won-han will do. But no matter what, the lives of the people are important. My personal feelings should not be involved. Therefore, I gratefully knelt before the Grand Princess. State affairs are paramount. Your Highness need not consider Lingxi, it is best to select the most suitable candidate. Ultimately, the court still entrusted this matter to Shin Won-han. But the outcome in this life was different from the previous life. Shin Won-han's decision was still the same as in the previous life. Whether for his career or for the people, he gambled everything. Before the snow disaster truly hit, he used private silver from the residents to stockpile a large amount of cold-resistant supplies and sent them south. The Marquis' residence didn't have my dowry, but it still had the mother-in-law's hidden assets. The mother-in-law just didn't like me, but she always trusted her son. Therefore, at first, I thought he would be promoted and honored like in the previous life. But in this life, there was also Su Pan. Shin Won-han listened to pillow talk and employed a servant from Su Pan's side. That servant appeared loyal and reliable but was actually treacherous. He created the illusion of transporting supplies south while absconding with the funds. When the court's funds arrived, Shin Won-han, confident as in the previous life, believed the supplies had already reached their destination, and didn't use those funds to procure more. Until the biting ice and snow in the south drenched him. He took the court's funds but didn't accomplish anything. The snow disaster caused countless deaths and injuries. The emperor was furious. On the first day back in the capital, he stripped Shin Won-han of his title and dismissed him from his position. If not for the plea of several old ministers, he would have been imprisoned immediately. It was said that this harsh winter, the Marquis' residents lived especially frugally. They couldn't even afford coal. All the money was saved by the old madam to try to keep Shin Won-han out of prison. The next time I saw Shin Won-han was in front of the Grand Princess's residence. I thought he was there to ask the Grand Princess to plead for him. But unexpectedly, he stopped my carriage. Master Shi, may I have the honor of inviting you for tea? I always concealed my face, and he had never heard my lectures. He didn't know that Master Shi was me. I didn't want to pay attention to him. He followed closely. Master Shi is favored by the Grand Princess. Could you speak favorably of me in front of the Grand Princess? I will definitely. I stopped walking. I lifted my veil. Looked at him. Shin Won-han's face turned pale in an instant. He looked at me in disbelief. You. Master Shi is actually. It's you? Shin Won-han walked away, looking lost and dejected. His face was dull, murmuring to himself, how could this happen? 14 years of marriage. He probably doesn't remember how I looked back then. Unfortunately, his dejection only lasted a few hours. By evening, he came to find me again. Lingxi, since you are Master Shi, things will be easier to handle. Unlike his dull demeanor in the morning, his eyes were now bright and intense. As long as you plead with the Grand Princess, ask her to speak for me before His Majesty. Lingxi, if you help me through this crisis, you'll still be the madam of my Marquis estate. In the future, we'll be loving and harmonious, never to part again. I looked at him coldly and sneered. Shinwen Han, am I cheap? Shinwen Han was taken aback. Is your madam title gilded? Shinwen Han's lips trembled. Where is your dignity? Your self-respect? Who gave you the audacity to say such things to me? Shinwen Han suddenly became angry. Tang Ling-si. Who do you think I'm doing this for? If I lose my title, lose my position, who do you think will suffer? Isn't it your son? My son? I laughed again. Does he bear my surname? You. Ling-si. Shinwen Han softened his tone. Ling-si, we've been husband and wife for over 10 years, you know this time it's not my fault. I didn't fail to purchase supplies, I even used my own private funds to advance the costs. I just misjudged people, how can all the blame be placed on me? These words, there's no need to say them to me, go explain them to His Majesty. How to decide, His Majesty will have his own ideas. I no longer wished to argue with him. I shook off his hand. At the door, I turned back. Shinwen Han. Misjudging people is also a crime. This crime, in my past life, I had suffered. In this life, it's his turn. Shinwen Han was eventually imprisoned. With so many deaths from the snow disaster, an explanation had to be given to the people. Before the verdict was delivered, my mother-in-law came to plead with me, Shinjunemmo came to plead with me. Anyone in the Marquis estate who had a good relationship with me in the past came to plead with me. I refused to see them all. They shouted outside. Madam, you've managed the household for over 10 years, you can't just ignore it now. I had Yunmeng enlarge the divorce document, print it, and hang it at the door. They then said, even if you're divorced, he's still the father of your child. I printed a copy of the official notice for Shinwen Han's arrest and posted it at the door. They continued to say, over 10 years of marriage, is the madam really so heartless? I directly had them all driven away and moved to the Grand Princess's estate. A month later, Shinwen Han's trial concluded. His Majesty considered his ancestors' contributions to the nation, and acknowledged he was indeed wrong this time. He was stripped of his title, dismissed from his position, and imprisoned for 2 years. Finally, no one came to find me anymore. Overnight, the Bravery Marquis estate's people and wealth scattered completely. Only then did it come out that Su Panpan had already run away with the child before this. I sat in a tea house, listening to gossip for half an afternoon. Some said Su Panpan ran away with the remaining assets. Others said the servant was deliberately arranged by Su Panpan for the estate's silver. Some even said Su Panpan had long been involved with that servant. And the Bravery Marquis estate had been cuckolded to the heavens. The rumors were varied, Yunmeng couldn't find out the truth. But eventually, I learned the truth. It was a year later. Su Panpan and the servant were captured by the court, along with that child. It said when they were escorted past Shinwen Han's cell, Shinwen Han screamed madly at just one glance. I rushed to the tea house to hear the gossip immediately. I didn't hear anything substantial. But I ran into Su Panpan's ex-husband, who also rushed to hear the gossip. Didn't expect you to have this hobby too, master. By then, I was famous throughout the capital, everyone respectfully called me master. Why not let me tell you? It turned out he divorced Su Panpan not because of any not serving her in-laws. She withdrew from the Bravery Marquis estate's marriage. Because she feared Shinwen Han wouldn't enter officialdom and would stay home all day, interfering with her affair with her lover. I was stationed at the border at the time, coming home only once every 6 months, naturally pleasing her. Shamefully, being cuckolded by a servant, I couldn't bear the disgrace. So I made up an excuse. Shinwen Han never suspected, she spent 10 years with him without bearing him any offspring? How dare she give birth? If the child resembled the lover too much, it would be exposed. Those two truly had a love stronger than gold. Back then her affair was discovered because she tried to use infertility medicine on me. So it was. So it was indeed. No wonder after I gave birth to Shinjunemmo, there was no further news. No wonder even Su Panpan's family drove her out. What a childhood sweetheart. What a moon in the sky, snow between the clouds. After returning, I couldn't help but laugh. Laughing until tears came out. He deceived me for over 10 years, Su Panpan deceived him for over 10 years. The wheel of karma turns, retribution is inevitable. Serves him right. They say Shinwon Han has gone mad. In the dungeon, he neither eats nor drinks, crying and laughing. My mother-in-law, or rather, the old Madam Shin, fell ill after this. The nanny by her side came to find me many times, saying she had something to tell me. I ignored her. Until one snowy day, the nanny said she wouldn't make it through the night. When I went over, she was lying on the bed. Her breath faint, looking just like she did the year I passed away. Do you remember my 50th birthday? You hired chefs from all over, 81 tables, 81 dishes. So many people, all surrounding me. Saying I would live forever, saying the future of the Marquis residence was limitless. And that year, that new year, you somehow got so many fireworks. She rambled on, talking about the glory of the Marquis residence back then. Finally, her cloudy eyes fixed on me. Tanglingsi, after all, it was my Marquis residence that let you down. The Marquis residence has long ceased to exist, I said. The light in the old madam's eyes suddenly vanished, and tears fell. Old Madam Shin. I looked at her now skin and bones appearance. I lost my mother at 10, and from the day I entered the Marquis residence, I regarded you as my own mother. What was it about me that displeased you, making you so critical of me? In my past life, I was obsessed with seeking approval. I gave everything I could, yet she was never satisfied. Living again, I finally understand. My worth doesn't need others' recognition. Old Madam Shin looked at me. The face that was always shrewd now seemed bewildered. After a while, she hesitantly said, "But, I also came through like this." Another year, Shinwon Han was released from prison. I never saw him in the capital. I only heard that Su Pan Pan, who had been executed a year ago, had her grave dug up. Time passed quickly. Over 2 years, the number of students in the school increased. Besides me, another woman from a scholarly family, despite her family's opposition, joined the school to teach. Being with the children, time was always bright and joyful. These days, whenever I entered or left the school, someone always followed me. It was Shinjun Mo. Except for the time Shinwon Han was imprisoned. When he came to see me once, I hadn't seen him for a long time. He had grown much taller. Wearing plain clothes, he was so thin that he hardly resembled his former self. Perhaps knowing I wouldn't acknowledge him, he didn't come close. After old Madam Shin passed away, the only nanny who served her also left. The Marquis residence had long been emptied, leaving no wealth for him. I knew he had sought work everywhere. Laboring, he couldn't manage. Selling knowledge, he didn't have any. Selling service, within days he managed to offend the guests, even losing money. Now, relying on the calligraphy I forced him to practice back then, he barely made a living selling some paintings. Perhaps seeing me staring at him today, he took a few steps forward. "Mother," he began with a sob. I turned my face away. He stopped. I started to walk away. "I'm sorry." That year, he whispered like a mosquito, "She said you hadn't cared for me for months, saying it was just to tease you." I didn't know it would be like that. In my past life, he clearly wasn't unaware. In this life, he was a few years younger. But whether or not, I didn't care anymore. I turned back, taking out the silver I had prepared. Here are 300 taels of silver. Enough for an ordinary family for 3 years. I looked up at him. "You have 3 choices. At 20, many people pass the imperial exams and become scholars. At 20, many learn a skill to support their family. At 20, many end up on the streets, living out a miserable life. Of course, you can also live for today, drink for today. Enjoy 3 days of indulgence, and return to your original path. All choices are yours. You just need to know, life has no turning back." I placed the silver in his hand and turned to leave. I had done all I could. No matter how he chooses, it has nothing to do with me anymore. The sunlight was excellent that day. Just as I entered the school, a child who was drying books ran over. "Master," she hugged my leg, "just now, that person," they said, "is he your son?" I held her hand. "Yes." "Then why don't you take care of him? He looks so pitiful." "What does taking care mean? Like, hugging him? Comforting him?" Teaching him like you do us? He's already grown up, he doesn't need it. But master, I saw in the books that a woman should follow her father when young, her husband when married, and her son when widowed. A woman should regard her father as heaven, her husband as heaven, her son as heaven. Only then is she a good woman. The books are wrong. Then why do all the books say that? Because, I squatted down, ruffling the little girl's hair. Those books were all written by men who are fathers, husbands, and sons. Will there be books written by women in the future? There will be. This is the meaning of us being here. Right?